What a pleasure it is to be back in Denver. I am such a big fan of this part of the world. I flew in and was immediately picked up at the airport and whisked off to Golden Gate Canyon State Park and went up hiking at 9,250 feet. Now, I live at about 50 feet above sea level, so that's kind of a significant number to be that high up. And of course, you know, when you start at this panoramic overlook, of course, you end up hiking down. So we, hike down for an hour and a half or so, and then what do you have to do? You have to hike back up. So it's sort of a funny realization that the mountains are different. But anyway, really happy to be here and talk to you about reporting. We've had a lot of enhancements over the last year. So I want to talk to you about the enhancements. I also want to talk to you about the roadmap. Thank you for the kind introduction. I am a new author, so I was approached by my favorite tech book publisher from the early part of my career, and they asked, would you consider writing a book on Salesforce analytics? And I said, yeah. I host a group called Dashboard Dojo. Has anybody attended Dashboard Dojo before? All right, it's really unpopular in this group. But Dashboard Dojo, we meet once or twice a month and spend 40, 50, 60 minutes just talking about some aspect of reporting, whether it's cross filters, whether it's custom report types, whether it's reporting snapshots, and so on. As we've been doing that now for 3 years, that actually was the research for the book. So it's kind of cool to have a group meeting, kind of like your admin group here. We meet virtually, and now we have over 40 hours of recordings. It's just at dashboarddojo.com, me blathering on about all sorts of interesting little tidbits about the report and dashboard features. I started a company 17 years ago called OpFocus. We work with SaaS companies to optimize revenue operations. So we've been working on Salesforce since day one of my company. It's been a real joy to just watch this platform grow and evolve. All right, so what I thought we'd talk about today are a number of the new features that have come out over the last year, such as the Analytics tab. Has anybody here actually clicked on and looked at the Analytics tab? We have a few. Okay, you guys are the most of any admin group that I've spoken to in the last few months. So you guys are way ahead of the game. The Analytics tab is intended to be the one-stop shop for all of your reports, all of your dashboards, all of your report and dashboard folders, all of your report and dashboard favorites, and if you have CRM analytics, those assets as well, all on one tab. So essentially, even though I just wrote a book on reports and dashboards, you can literally get rid of those tabs and just use the one tab. So it's kind of a big deal. And the big reason why most of you will never use this tab is that it requires a checkbox to turn it on. That's why most of you will never see it and you'll never use it, because it requires an admin to check a box. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about taking advantage of reports and dashboards in Slack. There's a lot of enhancements that have come out. It's been a little over a year since Salesforce introduced the Slack integration for reports and dashboards. I want to demo reporting on mobile. How many of you have logged in on your mobile device and run a report or run a dashboard? Has anybody done that before? Has anybody done it since February? Okay, so you have benefited from a really optimized reporting experience on the mobile device. There are some features that I'm going to show you that don't exist when you log in through a browser. So there are some things that are unique to reporting on mobile that are kind of cool, and your leadership teams will want to use this. All right, so what else? We were given personalized filters, kind of a quick thing, nice little handy type of filter. We've been given the ability to report on subscriptions, which can be helpful. And then for any of you that have Unlimited Edition, you got a whole bunch more stuff over the last year specific to reporting. So finally, what I want to talk about is some of the things we learned at Dreamforce about what's coming, and then some of the cool AI stuff that's on its way. It's already in pilot phase now. All right, so I mentioned the Analytics tab is a one-stop home for your reporting assets. And this is intended for all of your reports, all of your dashboards, all of your folders, all of your favorites that are reports and dashboard favorites. And then if you have CRM analytics licenses, you get those assets as well. If you read the help documentation, which I encourage you to do, it's a little confusing that it sort of makes it seem like you need CRM analytics licenses to use the analytics tab. That's not true. The org that I'll show you that I do have CRM analytics licenses. If you do have CRM analytics licenses, you get a few extra features, and I've highlighted those in yellow here. So if you do not have CRM analytics licenses, the things in yellow just don't appear. You have fewer buttons to look at. So what does this tab do? It's essentially the Reports tab combined with the Dashboards tab. And if you have CRM Analytics, it's all of that in one. So we can create reporting assets, such as reports, dashboards, report and dashboard folders. We can create favorites. We can manage them just like we can on those individual tabs. So if you click on the down arrow and look at the action menu, you get the same choices. Well, there's one extra one for a special feature on the Analytics tab called Collections, that you can add assets to a collection. And you can also run reports and dashboards on the Analytics tab. Now, this works a little differently. If you run a report or dashboard on the tab, you stay on the tab. And what Salesforce gives you are breadcrumbs up here in the top corner that you can get back to the main part of the tab. So Salesforce introduced a feature that should be a game changer, but there are a couple little quirky things with it. The new feature is called Collections. And what a collection is, it allows you to say, let's say we're doing year-end planning. It's that time of year, we're thinking about 2024. For some of us, we serve the SaaS industry. It's been just a crap year for us. But we're really excited about 2024. But we might create a collection to put all of our reports and dashboards into one place. You might have 6 reports that do year-over-year analysis or whatever. You might have a couple of dashboards, and you can put them into something called a collection, and then you can share that collection with users in your org. The one thing about collections that you have to keep in mind is that they respect the underlying folder permissions. So if I create the world's greatest collection and I share it with you, and it has 5 reports and 10 dashboards in it, but you can't see those reports or dashboards because of the folder permissions, you basically see an empty collection. So it's the one quirky thing that you actually have to keep in mind. You're not just sharing the reports and dashboards, but you have to keep in mind what the underlying folder permissions are. So just like with reports and dashboard folders, we can share collections with users, groups, and roles. So they're intended to be created and shared. You could also create your own private collections. So the permission levels are none, viewer, editor, manager, just like with report and dashboard folders. So let's go take a look. So in an org, I have the Analytics tab visible. When I go to the tab, I can see a couple of choices here, categories, Home, Browse, and Favorites. The Home, if you click in there, you see a list of recent items. You also have a very powerful search. This is one of the main reasons for those of you that have 10,000 reports or 20,000 reports. I know you're out there, some of you that work in huge orgs. This is a game changer, just the ability to search. So if I come in here and I search on the word pipe, for example, I get a short list here, but if I go ahead and complete that search, I'm brought to the search capability, and what Salesforce introduces is a set of additional filters that I can apply to my search. So, I just want to look at reports, and the results update down below. So there are 39 reports. When I looked at all items, there were 45. Now there are 39 reports. But I'm not done yet. So again, for those of you that have huge numbers of reports and dashboards, you have these additional filters you can apply. So this one was, this is one that I think I created it. Okay, it looks like I created all 39. But maybe I wasn't the one that last modified it, right? So what I love about this is that the default is anybody, but I can say not me. So some really unique filtering capabilities to just get at what you're looking for. This to me blows away the report and dashboard tab searches. It's also taking us toward natural language search. So it says search or ask your data a question. Will we rebound in 2024? Yeah, I don't think it's going to be that good yet. But the idea is to get toward natural language. They've got semantic search, da-da-da-da-da. Some of this is tied to CRM analytics, but the whole direction is toward much more assistance with searching. So let me show you collections. So I've got 2 collections here. One is called year-end analysis. If I click on that, what you'll see is the stuff that's in the collection. So there are 23 items in this collection. And another feature that Salesforce has introduced are little snapshots of what it is that is in the collection. So I can see this report here, I can see this report here, and then some that don't have images for whatever reason. Let's go look at my marketing analysis one, and I have some. Okay, here's one that's a little more interesting. I've got a chart on this one, and this one has a chart as well. So what Salesforce is doing when you start using the Analytics tab is when you edit a report or dashboard, supposedly, it takes a snapshot. It's a little wonky. It's not perfect yet, but they take a snapshot of what it is that you've modified, and then you have a preview available on the Analytics tab. So if I wanted to create a new collection, I could just click the plus button here. Let's call this the Denver Group collection. I can change the colors. If I want all of them in marketing to be red or green or whatever, I could do that. Give it a description, click save. And then you're, as you'd expect, you're brought into the collection, and you can now add assets. And it's as easy as clicking the add button, searching. I'll search in the word pipe again for pipeline, and I'll add these couple of things. Click add, and then they're just dropped into the collection. So now I can see that 2 of them have previews, and what I could do is click on the share button and just immediately share that out with other users. So there's a little bit more to collections. You can actually hide your collections from yourself, which seems kind of funny, but you might have things that you do typically at year end. You might have things that you do in Q1, and you might just keep those collections sort of off to the side. You also have the ability to pin collections. A pinned collection shows with a little pin here. When I go back to the Home tab, it's the first one in the center of the screen. So that collection is shown front and center. Is anybody inspired to give it a try? So for me, to go from having 2 tabs to going to 1 tab, that's worth it. Fewer buttons to look at, fewer things to click on. To me, that's worth it. I think the search capability is such a game changer for big companies that have huge numbers of assets that this is worth it. Any questions about the Analytics tab? Yeah.
So you mentioned when you share it, it's still going to kind of an underlying folder that the report's in.
Yes.
So you might still have to go to the reports tab and find out what folder it is and share that.
And we can do it from this tab. We don't have to go to the reports tab. So exactly how would we do that? That's a great question. So why don't I browse, and I'm looking for folders. So I can also see the location. That's essentially the folder that something's in. So I have a folder called Play Dashboards, and I can come right in here and, you know what? It looks like I lied. There's no sharing control here. So maybe we still do have to go back. I'm glad you asked, because I hadn't noticed that. Maybe we still do have to flip back for that. Say it again. Let's look. So this would be the report or dashboard actions. So you know what? Let me search on the word pre-configured, because that is an odd word that's used in. So here's the folder, and if I go to the down arrow here, I can do it from here. Good call, guys. So I can share from that list. So there is some way to do it. And just to point out as well, if I go run something, if I go run this key metrics dashboard, there are breadcrumbs up here in the top left to take you back to where you came from. So I'll go back to the folder from there. One other thing, if you run a report instead of a dashboard, so I'll just run this report here. There's one extra button, which oddly, Salesforce does a lot of reuse of stuff. If you guys notice, they reuse the same words awkwardly. They also reuse the same logos. So this looks like a folder to me, but it's not, it's a collection. So this button here is add to collection. So somebody's got to tell them. Awesome. All right, so one other thing that Salesforce has done to keep, essentially keep parity in the latest release, if you use the console app, it will allow you to have multiple tabs open to the analytics tab. So that wasn't supported in the earlier releases, but that is now supported. So in a console app, instead of having all the tabs across the top, you have a down arrow with your tabs coming down the center, but you can have additional tabs open to specific records, or in this case, specific things on the analytics tab. So how do we enable this? And maybe I should say more accurately, why are most companies never going to use this feature? Because it requires you guys to check a box, and we're just not all going to get around to it. So if you go to Setup, Feature Settings, Analytics, Reports and Dashboards, Report and Dashboard Settings, there are two checkboxes down here at the bottom. The first one is to enable the previews, and the second one is enable the unified experience for Analytics Home. So it's a mouthful. And I love the sort of reality that this is the unified analytics home, but Tableau is nowhere to be seen. So maybe at some point in the future, but they must have started this before the Tableau acquisition or something. So the second thing you'd want to do is just make that tab, as soon as you check the box, the tab is available in your org. You just want to make it available to users, maybe add it to apps or update their profiles just to make sure that they can see the tab. I would not roll this out by hiding the reports and dashboards tabs. I would roll this out with training, maybe allow them to coexist for a little while, and then sort of quietly have the report and dashboard tabs go away. But all right, so that's the analytics tab. With regard to Slack, how many of you use Slack? All right, so that's a lot of you. How many of you had tried this since it came out? Is anybody? Okay, so this is not like a big game-changing thing. However, there are a couple little benefits to it. So basically, it takes an admin on the Slack side and an admin on the Salesforce side to sort of shake hands and help each other out. But what you're doing is you're installing the CRM analytics for Slack app on the Slack side. And then there's one extra step, I think, on the Salesforce side. But what it allows you to do, it gives you keyboard commands, essentially, I guess they're slash commands in Slack. But you can type /analytic recent, /analytics favorites, etc. And it'll just pull in your favorite items, and you can run them, you can favorite them, you can subscribe to them here. If you are running up against your limits for subscriptions, there are some companies where subscriptions are used heavily. This actually gives you an extra 7 report subscriptions and an extra 7 dashboard subscriptions just by using Slack. So I think this is pretty cool. There's a bunch of things you can do, view favorites and recents and see snapshots. So the other thing that we can do on the Salesforce side is if you're looking at a dashboard or a report, actually there's a little Slack button. You can push it to a workspace and a channel and basically say, guys, we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem, right? Go work on this. And you could basically push that to a channel in Slack, push the dashboard or whatever you're looking at. Cool. So the one other thing you can do is essentially view and manage your subscriptions, and you can do it right from within Slack. There's a little screen that you can work on as well. Okay. So not many of you said you use mobile, and it breaks my heart because I use my phone all the time. I am a business owner. I run reports and stand in airports, and it's just so much easier to do it on the phone. So this is kind of an interesting one for me personally because I wrote the book on Salesforce mobile reporting. I wrote the chapter before they released this, and I was like, it's like really the only chapter I had to completely rewrite because they made it so much faster. They added mobile-friendly features, better performance, text wrapping, which is a big one. You've got such small real estate on the screen that it's just helpful to have these things. There is no action required to set this up. What you'd really need to do is just download the latest app, hopefully since February. So if you've updated your Salesforce app since February, you'll have these new features. And I would probably ask you to train your users on this and just tell them, hey, this is a pretty cool thing. So let me show you why this is cool. Because you always have to make demos a little more complicated than they already are. All right, so this is my phone. Welcome to my phone. And where did Salesforce go? Here it is. Okay, so what we're looking at is the Home tab on my phone here on my Salesforce mobile, and I'm looking at a pinned report. So Salesforce has introduced something called the mobile home, and kind of interestingly, users are asked, do you want to use the mobile home? The answer is yes, you want to use a mobile home. Okay, living in a mobile home is a different thing, right? But the mobile home here, it allows you to pin the reports you care about the most right on top. And you see this little thing here, it says, so this is the all open pipeline report, and I have the sum of the amount, and then these magic words next to it. These magic words are why I think your leadership team will want this and why I like it. Because if I just refresh this, now hopefully this will work. I'm pulling down to refresh. Hopefully it'll rerun the report. Come on. Ah, man, I just made a change right before we went on. So what that does normally is it'll show you a plus amount in green or a minus amount in red if the numbers have gone up or down for all of the summary fields on the report. So this report has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and each one of them would show changes to that in green or red. Now, you're not just limited to one pinned report. I got bored at 10. I added 10 pinned reports, and I can just scroll down. Win ratio versus average deal size by owner. One ops by month in the last 6 months, and so on. Now watch how easy it is for me to add, move around, or remove one of these pinned reports. I just click on the edit link up in the top right, and I can move one of these around. All right, come on, you have to make me a liar. Here we go. So I just move that one up. If I want to add one, I click the button at the top called Add Card. And this is what we just need to teach our users. You can choose to add a pinned report, a pinned list, or CRM analytics assets if you have those licenses. I'm going to go ahead and choose a pinned report, and I can scroll through all my reports. How about this? Closed won opportunities by fiscal year and month. I'll click on that. And I'm going to go ahead and click Save. You know, this happened the last time I demoed this. For some reason, just wasn't going to move fast enough. So normally when you click Save, it just pops it right on the top. Sorry that I didn't get that to work, but all right, that's a little frustrating that the greens and reds aren't appearing. So normally this works, but I'm using a tool called Reflector, and I have no idea if that's interfering somehow. So that's the mobile capabilities. The one other thing to show you, if I go to this, if I want to just run one of those reports, I just click on it. All of the summary details appear at the top. In the updated release, the headers are frozen. So those were not frozen last fall, and it was terrible. This was terrible to work with. But if I scroll up and down, they stay frozen. And I can hide the chart or show the chart if I want. All of these are little enhancements that they've made to make this just easier to work with. Cool. Any questions about mobile? All right, let's talk about filters. This is one that we could have written a custom formula field and sort of gotten around this. We'd done that for years. But Salesforce threw us a little bone. We don't have to create a formula field anymore to basically create a my filter on any lookup to the user object. So if you have a custom field or even a standard field that is a lookup to the user object, on any report now, we can add a filter that works as a my filter. So this applies to all additions, and it's for any user lookup field. And what you do is you add a filter on that field. So I have a custom field here called Sales Engineer. Can anybody tell me from this little strip of screenshot, how do I know this is a custom field? Yeah, the _ C. And I know this is a lookup to the user object because it tells me. So that's all the ingredients I need. If I go create a report on the object, in this case it's opportunities, and I add a filter on the report to the sales engineer, what I get is this reused link, use relative value. Salesforce was a little too lazy to come up with words that are applicable to this, but it's fine. If you click use relative value, the only choice now is $user, and that's the one you want. I think why not just give us $manager while you're at it, because that would be kind of cool too. But for this use case, let's go take a look. So if I go to the reports tab, and so I have a field called executive sponsor on the opportunity, and the executive sponsor literally just is a lookup to the user object, and we can pull any executive in. And what I can do is I can come in my report and go to the filters tab. And if I search on executive sponsor, come in here, use relative value. So I'm David, I'm logged in as David. So it's filtering all of the values in that executive sponsor field to match me. This is why this is cool. So for the owner field, we've had it for years, right? We've had this my filter capability where we can come up here and say, give me my opportunities. But this is different. We have a lookup to some other, a lookup from another field, and we want to filter on that. So if you think of if you have sales engineers, who's the sales, if I want to see, I'm assigned as the sales engineer, what open opportunities am I assigned? Or for last quarter, which one deals was I the sales manager on, or the sales engineer, whatever. Does anybody have a use for this? Okay. Any particular example?
We have estimators.
Estimators. So the estimators work on quotes, and that you have a lookup field to the user objects. You pull those names in. Yeah, you could absolutely use this. Yep. And this could feed a dashboard that has the running user set to be the person who's actually looking at the dashboard. So it's sort of a nice combination to use with a dashboard as well. All right. So how many of you use subscriptions for reports or dashboards? So a little over a year ago, the number of report dashboard subscriptions, the limits went from 5 to 7. So that was exciting. It wasn't like there wasn't a lot of fanfare when it happened. And then when Salesforce started pumping steroids into the unlimited edition, they moved the limit from 7 to 15. So if you have unlimited edition, you get 15 report subscriptions, 15 dashboard subscriptions per user. Well, they figured along the way, why not give you guys the ability to report on these subscriptions? So in order to do it, what we need to do is create a new custom report type. Custom report type is probably the most powerful thing in all of Salesforce reporting that does not have its own trailhead badge. It should have its own trailhead badge. I think a whole chapter in the book is focused on this. It is so unbelievably powerful and hidden what we can do with custom report types. There's a dashboard dojo, an hour long, on all the cool things you can do if you want to find that just on dashboarddojo.com. But what Salesforce has been doing is introducing these sort of back-end objects, such as analytic notifications. In fact, there are over 100 objects now that you can't report on any other way unless you create a custom report type first. And creating a custom report type for an admin, it takes maybe 30 seconds or something. You basically create the custom report type, select that object. And this is what the reporting looks like, that you can basically see all the subscriptions and who's assigned to them and so on. All right, let's keep going. So how many of you have unlimited edition or have customers who have unlimited edition? Okay, so quite a few of you. Congratulations, you guys get a lot more stuff. So you're basically getting the up to 15 report and dashboard subscriptions per user. You're getting new object and field filters when you're selecting a report type when you create a report. You're getting up to 25 dashboard components. How many dashboard components can the rest of us have?
20.
Just 20. So unlimited edition gets 5 more per dashboard. And then they've introduced 2 new types of dashboard components, the text component and the widget, the image component. And they've thoroughly confused everybody because they're no longer called components. In unlimited edition, they're called widgets. So that's not confusing. The other thing they've given us is the ability to have up to 5 dashboard filters. Normally, we have up to 3. So unlimited edition has gotten quite a bit. I do have a QR code here for a page in help called Report and Dashboard Limits, Limitations, and Allocations. which can be helpful. It's not always completely up to date, but it still can be helpful on what each edition is allowed. So this idea of getting not only up to 25 widgets per dashboard, but getting these 2 new types of widgets. When you are editing or creating a dashboard in Unlimited Edition, the plus component button is now plus widget. And when you click it, you get 3 choices. So the original 11 charts or tables, plus a new widget called text and a new widget called image. So let's take a look at both of these. So a friend over in the UK, I'm actually going to speak to her user group next week in Cambridge in the UK. I'm very excited about that. So this is why writing a book is a good thing. Because I was like, oh, now that I'm done, I should plan a book tour. Yeah, it's really cool. So anyway, this friend over in the UK, right when this came out, she had access to her Unlimited Edition org, and she's like, oh, I'll take a screenshot for you. And she put Happy Wednesday team and put an image. Now, I don't think I would ever put either one of these on a dashboard, but it still shows that you can do it. What's a little unfortunate is that it revealed right away, this isn't dynamic. So on Thursday, it's not going to say Happy Wednesday, or it's not going to say Happy Thursday, it's going to say Happy Wednesday. So I probably wouldn't do that. But let's look at each one. So the text widget, again, this is only in limited edition. You can have up to 500 characters. You can change the font, the size, the color. You can adjust the format. Now, the best thing about this, in my opinion, came out when it came out generally available. When in the beta, it didn't have this. And I was looking at it, I was like, yes, they added it. So what they added was the ability to have links. Now, can anybody tell me why it might be kind of cool to put links on a dashboard? Anybody think of a use case? Sorry?
To link to other dashboards?
Yeah, you could link to other dashboards, link to other systems entirely. Hey, sales team, you guys are really doing great. I know you're working hard. Your comp is not going to be quite so high because you're really not selling all that well compared to quota. But if you want to check your quota, here are some links. You can check your quota in this other system. If you are reinforcing sales methodology, you could have links to training, stuff like that. To me, this is the big thing with text, that you can put a blob of text on there explaining what's on the dashboard and maybe having some links out to other systems. Now for the image, it's 2 steps. First step is to either upload or select the image. Every time you add an image, it gets put into a gallery. So that gallery, just keeping the images. I have not played with the gallery yet, so I can't really explain it more than that. But once you select your image or upload it, then you are asked to specify the scale. You're asked to set the alignment. Is it horizontal? Is it vertical? Do you want to have a hover tooltip? Do you want to have alternate text on it? But has anybody played with either the text or the widget? Do you have anything to share about it? Oh, come on.
It's a lot of fun. It does make you can add additional context to your existing dashboard components, especially if you've got a lot of new users who don't know what they're looking at.
Yes.
You give them tips about here's how you can drill down, here's a quick tip on filters and things like that in case they need it.
So I want to give you guys 2 tips with reports and dashboards. Tip number 1, do not assume that people know what it is they're looking at. I mean, to them, it looks like the cockpit of the space shuttle, with all this, like they're literally, I have no idea what I'm looking at. I'm supposed to run the business with this. So don't make any assumptions. I would actually think of training them just like you would on any other system. Okay, this is your pipeline. This is your forecast. And especially if you have ratios or that kind of stuff, you just want to explain it. The second thing I'd suggest is anytime you introduce any new report or dashboard, have the confidence to look them in the eye and ask to sit in the room when they use it. The first time I did that, they were like, why in the hell is this guy in our executive team meeting? And then the magic happened because they're looking at it and clearly they have no idea what they're looking at. So that was clue number 1. And then they started saying things like, wow, we've never seen this before. And they said the magic words, if only we could see it for the European sales that we have, or if only we could see it for this industry. And I'm off in the corner cloning the dashboards, making these adjustments. And I basically had them done before the meeting was over. But I didn't tell them that. I told them, I'm going to have to work from home for a few days to actually get this done. But if you sit in the meeting, you learn so much about what they understand and don't understand, and what they actually need. It's really a good thing. I think it added $10,000 to my salary right away. Just be like, oh, he expects to be in the meeting. Great. Okay, so the final unlimited edition update is that you can have up to 5 filters per dashboard. I was never really bothered by the limited 3, but I do like filters. I think they're very, very cool and powerful. I think that a lot of the power comes in things that you don't quite expect. Like this one over here on the right, this created date equals last 30 days. You can use these filters and use them with dynamic date ranges. So they're relative date ranges in Salesforce, like this week, next week, this quarter, next month, this month, all that. So you can basically have these dynamic filters to just look at your, let's say, your sales pipeline and just keep looking at it and each one of these filters can have 50 choices. So you can have lots and lots of choices in there. Cool. All right, that's unlimited edition. In the winter 24 release, there is a brand new feature that will be incredibly meaningful to like 5 of you. And the rest of you will go, why do you need that? Does anybody know what this problem is with transferring ownership of a dashboard?
So if someone becomes deactivated, then you can't run it as that person?
Yeah, so if somebody becomes deactivated, you suddenly have problems. And Salesforce just didn't give us a way to change the owner. Well, now they do, as long as you check a box. I would get in the habit with each new release to just come in here and look, are there any new beta features or are there any new features that require a checkbox to turn them on? So this one requires a checkbox. If I come into Setup, Feature Settings, Analytics, Reports and Dashboards, Report and Dashboard Settings, it's this one here. It's actually still in beta, but they don't have the word beta for whatever reason. They're not very consistent about words, I've noticed. But if I go ahead and check this box, it says allow users to change dashboard owner. Scroll down, click Save. Now when I go to the Dashboard tab, and I just run any dashboard. So I'm going to run the Play with Filters dashboard. And if I come to my action menu here, I have a new choice to change the owner. So when I click that, I can search users. It works just like other transfer owner screens in Salesforce, the pop-up screens. So it solves a problem that a few of us have had, and this seems consistent in this group. All right. How many of you love writing formulas and reports? Do we have any formula writers? None? Oh, come on, little half hands raised. Come on, you guys have to do better than that. So formulas are such a game changer, just like in Excel. I know you guys have worked with people that know how to write formulas in Excel, and you think of them as like possessing dark arts or skills or something like that. In Salesforce, it's kind of the same. In fact, on the Dashboard Dojo, we have at least 5 hours of recordings on how to write formulas and step-by-step and formulas for sales and formulas for service. This change is more of one to come back to what we had in Classic. So when Salesforce moved from Classic to Lightning, there were some features that were kind of left behind. This one is kind of that, but it's also a little bit of an enhancement. So up until this latest release, there would be 2 tabs, General and Display. And every now and then when you'd write certain formulas, if you write a summary formula with Pref Group Val or the Parent Group Val, you'd get an error and you couldn't figure out where to go to fix the error. And it was on this Display tab and you had to go hunt for it. Well, now what they've done is they brought that Display tab up and it's now just one tab. So it's not hidden. And they've given us this really ancient looking diagram over here. It's so ancient that somebody carved it in stone, originally, right? So it's this ancient looking thing to help you understand where is the formula going to be displayed. So this impacts your experience with Parent Group Val and Pref Group Val functions. These are 2 magical functions that really expand your capabilities with reporting if you haven't played with them. All right, so let's talk about the roadmap. So Salesforce for quite a few years has been almost like wasting energy in my mind, catching up with Classic. They felt a lot of pressure to deliver everything as it was in Classic, like the ability to hide report types. They built it just like they had it in Classic. To me, that was kind of a stupid, they should have just reimagined it, but they didn't. So there are still a couple of these and they're still making changes. Then they have report and dashboard roadmap for true to the core. So the transfer dashboard ownership just is now beta. Filter reports by summary information. That's cool. Show me all the industries where the sum of the open pipe is over $1 million. So filtering on the summary values, that's cool. That's coming. It's a beta right now. I don't know how to sign up for the beta. You might have to reach out to support. There's some betas that it's a checkbox. Other betas you have to reach out to support. I'm excited about that one. Another one that's coming is the ability to add a reference line to dashboard components. We can add a reference line to report charts now. We can't do it on dashboards, so that's coming. Another one in the roadmap is the ability to bucket blank pick list values. That's kind of cool. Salesforce is very awkward with null values and nothing. It just deals with nothing awkwardly, so that'll help. So some performance enhancements, yeah, boring. But it's important for those of you, there are companies that have not moved to Lightning yet. Lightning has been out for 8 years, is it? It's at least 7. I think it's 8 years. It hasn't been ready for 8 years. Lightning's been out for a long time, but it's still not fast enough for some people. So they continue with that. And then also they've been introducing the analytics tab changes, Slack changes, and mobile changes. So good stuff coming. But there's more. Have any of you played with Data Cloud yet? So Salesforce is basically offering a data lake or data warehousing capabilities. It's had 3 or 4 names in the last year. It was introduced as Genie a year ago at Dreamforce. That was weird. And now it's called Data Cloud. With this release, if you use Data Cloud, we can report on it with regular old reports and dashboards. I have to update my book because that's cool. So the way that you use it, so let's say that we have manufacturing data. We're a manufacturing company. We have manufacturing data in the Data Cloud, and we produce widgets. And we have a widgets table for how many widgets have been produced. And that's sitting in the Data Cloud. What I would need to do is go under Setup and go to Custom Report Types, create a custom report type, and I can select from my Data Cloud objects, select the widget object, and I can create a custom report type, save it, and then people can report on that. So this is a big change. Doesn't cost anything. You just have to pay, you have to pony up for Data Cloud. But this is good. Because up until now, we've just been able to report on what's in Salesforce. Now this gives us a way to report on what's in Data Cloud as well.
Wait, did you already cover the Data Cloud free now?
Did I cover what?
The Data Cloud freemium?
I think I have it on my next. You know what? I didn't include it. I should, because yes. So I was sitting at the keynote at Dreamforce, and I think it was Parker Harris announced. He's the CTO and co-founder, another billionaire out there, but a very nice guy. So he announced that you can use 10,000. He used the word profiles, I think, which didn't make a ton of sense. But there's 10,000 of something with Data Cloud. Plus, you can use 2 free Tableau creator licenses. So they announced both of those at the same time at Dreamforce. So super cool. So you could play with the Data Cloud, essentially. I don't know if you need to talk to your sales rep to get access to the free capabilities.
You can actually you can add it, you can go to your account, you can add it and download it, and then use the freemium version. I've been playing with it, trying to find a use case.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. Yes, it's nice to work backwards and try to find the use case for it. That's great. This capability is still very basic. You can tell it's basic because they're talking about things like, we're going to introduce sorting and filtering. So that stuff's coming out in this release, Winter 24. It's already out. But they're working on it. It's like step by step. When they introduce new features, it takes a couple of releases. What's really exciting is what's coming all the way over on the right, this feature called Einstein Copilot. So I know most of us have played with ChatGPT, and we know that Salesforce is like, there's stuff cooking. In fact, there's a lot cooking. At Dreamforce, I was given a very special invitation for day 0 of Dreamforce to spend the day at the tower with the head of research for AI and a few 100 other people. It wasn't just me. But, and they were just talking about what they're working on. And what's so cool, it reminds me, okay, I'm old enough to remember when browsers came out. So there was Netscape 1.0 and Internet Explorer 1.0, and there was this browser race, who could come up with the features the fastest. And it was this amazing time of innovation, and words were changing so quickly. And that's what they were describing. Today, we're calling it Copilot, but we're not sure if we're going to call it Copilot. It's just like they're inventing the words for things that we're going to be using. It was kind of exciting. So let's take a look at what they're coming out with. So this is more on the data cloud stuff, which is very exciting. But let's look at the Einstein. So this is my Dreamforce photo. They're basically saying we're going to boost report building and productivity and reduce proliferation of reports. The first thing they're working on right now is formula generation to allow you to say in natural English, I would like to have a report that compares, that does, year over year by quarter, and I want to compare each quarter to the year, something like that. Now that's a mouthful. I know I need to use a parent group val to achieve that when I write a formula, but what they're saying is that Salesforce is actually going to generate the formulas. Now, you're going to want to test the hell out of them because you may not have said it correctly, it may not have heard you correctly, all that. But where they're headed with this is the ability to generate reports on the fly using natural language. So I'd like a report on all of my service activity, showing the cases by month with the average days open, something like that. Like, that's kind of cool, just to be able to say it, and zoop, the report builder just gives you something. So where they're also going is giving us suggestions on existing reports. For end users, the hardest thing about creating reports is knowing which report type to pick. Salesforce has already started down the path. They give us a little details thing, and we can see other reports created with the report type, other reports that I've created with the report type. You can see all the fields on the report type. Well, they want to actually make suggestions about which report type to use. My company, let's say we have 50 employees. We have over 100 report types. It's hard to know. Some of them are probably ancient, haven't been used in years. How do you know if you're a new employee? Well, this AI is going to make suggestions on what report type is. No, don't use that one. Use this one. Like, that'll be good when that works. Help identify report types, and then the ability to customize a report on the fly. So you're looking at a report and saying, no, this isn't what I want. I want that. And to be able to say it in a natural, or type it in a natural language. Has anybody played with this, the pilot feature? So pilots usually they're not invitation only, but you have to sort of know somebody or pay money to, you have to work a little harder to get access to the pilot. But it's kind of exciting. So we're going to see more. The February release, spring release, right around the corner. We'll be able to play with it in January. So that's kind of cool. It's like literally, it's coming so fast, all this stuff. And it's going to be throughout Salesforce. They're looking at all these different ways to make lives as admins easier. Cool. All right. So we talked about a whole bunch of stuff. I didn't really demo as much as I normally like to, but I'm always happy to. There's so many ways to keep learning. There's Trailhead. There's, the help docs. Anytime you use a new feature for the first time, I would suggest you just read the help docs. There's a lot of fine print, and you want to know the fine print, that when you use roll-up summary fields, the currencies aren't supported. It's just like stuff like that. And you can learn it by just sifting through the help docs for new features. I mentioned the Group Dashboard Dojo. We try to meet twice a month. I'm fumbling in the month of October. We'll get back on track in November. We've got about 40 hours of recordings. And then I mentioned the book, which amazingly took 18 months to write. Has anybody written a book here? If so, I'm totally in awe. If I could do it, anybody could do it, like, honestly. But it sort of helped that my favorite publisher asked me to do it. Any questions? No? Is anybody going to go home and try a feature? Yeah.
Question. So I really have experience with the nonprofit version of Salesforce and Lightning, just the sort of basic stuff that's not the extra paid features. Is that available to in that nonprofit?
Absolutely. You have the same reporting capabilities. I believe there's enterprise would probably be the default that a nonprofit would be given the 10 free license plus add-on. And you'd have access to all the reporting features, except for the ones that I talked about for Unlimited today. Yep, sure. Yeah, any of the templates. So there's the nonprofit template, there's the finance cloud, the health cloud, and so on. What that essentially does is just introduce in some additional data models, some additional objects, and then some additional screens. And if you just think of it, you have the same old reporting capabilities and you just have additional objects. You may want to take advantage of custom report types to get at more. I don't know how many report types come specific to NPSP or whatever it's called currently.
Yeah, yes, I wish I knew the answer, but
Yeah, what is it called currently?
NPSP.
NPSP, and I feel like the name is changing, but sometimes if you wait around long enough, the name changes back. So anyhow, all right, any other questions? Cool, did you guys, oh yeah, go ahead. What is next for the analytics tab? I think the ability to do more natural language search is coming. What did I feel like I heard something and it's already in the back of my mind what they're adding to it, but I don't feel like they're done yet with it.
I was just wondering also if the future would be to get rid of dashboards with all those visuals right there.
Yeah, I could see a day when we don't show the report and dashboard tabs, just have the one tab. I'm all in favor of fewer buttons all the time. In fact, I love holding up like a regular remote control that has 1,000 buttons on it, and then like an Apple remote control for an Apple TV, and it has like 4 buttons. It's like deliciously simple. That's what I want for my users in Salesforce. I want you to argue with me why a tab should appear. So if we can go from 2 to 1, that's a joy.